In this video, I'm going to introduce the basic tools you have for MIDI editing. Now, there's two approaches to MIDI editing. One is editing the actual clip, and the clip is a container for the MIDI notes. We can also edit the MIDI notes themselves, so I'm going to show you both. But the clip, kind of like audio clips, works very much the same. We have a lot of the same tools in the header area. So if you want to trim up a MIDI clip, like this one here extends past bar 6. If I want to trim it down to bar 6, then I can just bring that in. It respects the snapping, and I use the same exact trimming tools that I would use for that. Now you'll notice that it doesn't have a fade tool on there because fading would be done differently with MIDI. But you can take the entire clip and you can drag it around. You can use this to edit it, and you can use this to slip all the MIDI notes within the overall clip. Likewise, you can split this up. So if we put a selection here at bar 3 and I use the /, you can see that I can chop the clip itself into multiple pieces. If I select one clip, then I can move it independently of the other parts. Almost all of the audio editing related to clips, other than the fades, works just the same for the overall clip. Now you can open this up, and once you expand this to a point, you'll see that it flips into the MIDI editor. So another way to do this is to double click on the header, and then that'll flip it to the large view and you can see it. You might need to zoom in a little bit because it's somewhat sensitive to the zoom setting, like you can see here. If you want to really see those notes, you might need to zoom in a little bit more. Now double clicking on the clip header will open it and it will close it like this, depending on the setting you have back in general. So I'm going to the settings tab, general behavior. Right here on track sizing, it says double clicking a track toggles between small and large height. You can also have it toggle between 3 heights or a small and medium height. I just like to leave it set at the small and the large height. Another setting related to the clips is once you get into them is how many octaves you see on the piano roll itself. And that's set here in options. You'll see the default editor vertical scale is set to 2 octaves. I think that's a reasonable starting point. But if you want, you can set this to more octaves. It depends on the kind of music you're working with. If you're working with something more elaborate, you might want to see more octaves. Also, if you're on a bigger screen, that would be another choice as well. So I'm going to leave that set. Now, one more option that's helpful to see, if I move my mouse wheel, you can see that I can scroll within the MIDI editor. Now, sometimes I turn this off because, let me just show you why. If I'm working at mixing or something like that, I'm trying to scroll all the tracks. But now if I move the mouse over here where it's over the MIDI editor, you can see it's scrolling right here. So you might find this kind of annoying depending on if you're doing MIDI editing or not. Now, if you're in MIDI editing mode, then you might want to go into the mouse wheel action and turn it where mouse wheel scrolls the MIDI grid. I have that on at this point. So that's really helpful, I think, to have that on so you can actually find your MIDI notes within here. So with all that said, we can start looking at the actual tools we have to work with MIDI. And they're pretty straightforward, and I think you're going to find that they're pretty simple to use. It all works by selecting notes and then doing some sort of action. So if I click a note, it selects it. And then within here, let me just make it a little bit bigger. Within here, I can drag notes up and down like that to change their pitch. If I drag it like this and hit Command Z, that undoes what I did. You can also grab the end. This is with this arrow tool here selected. If I grab the end, I can shorten it up. You can see that it's snapping to grid increments because I have snap turned on. If I turn snap off over here or with the keyboard shortcut Q, then I can freely move this. I can freely move the note around as well, just like that. So that's kind of how I can adjust the note. So over here where I've got this note playing early, here's another one. I can just grab and drag and get it to where it's playing either on the beat or just slightly behind. And that's going to usually sound a little bit better. So there's the basic timing correction right there. I actually turn snap off a lot of the time to do these basic timing corrections. If you want to get like one of these piano parts to get more of a roll where you feel like it's kind of rolling into the note, then you can leave the bass note here and just push these back just a little bit. You could zoom in somewhat here. Let me grab the cursor here. And then just sort of just kind of draw in that roll. Maybe not enough to hear it exactly. I'll also turn the click off here for the next time through. But if you really want to get maybe more of an exaggerated roll into this. But that's kind of the idea. Now to duplicate a note, just select the note, hold down Command as you drag, like this. That would be Control on a PC, and then you can copy. Basically, that's copying a note. You can also position the cursor where you want that note to go, like out here. Say I wanted to duplicate it out here. The note here is selected, and then just use D, and it'll insert it at the cursor. So that's kind of really useful. And then once you've got that selection made, if you want to put a bunch of notes like this in, just put the cursor where you want it, hit D, and then you can put in a bunch of those. Command Z will take those out. You can also do all of these things in the properties section. So if I select a note, one or more notes, I can adjust the pitch here with this slider, and I can adjust the velocity, which is the intensity with which you played it. You can also do very precise adjustments to the length and the start and the end times by adjusting these parameters directly. So all those are available. All right, so that is this tool, which is the selection tool. Now the next thing over is the actual pencil tool. You can use this to draw in a note. So if you click, it will just put a note in. And this tool is the erase tool. So you can just use this to swipe over any notes that you want to take out, just like that. And there's also a line tool. I usually use this for drawing in controllers, but it is possible to use it for notes as well. So if we kind of zoom in, just going to put in a series of notes and kind of show you how that works. So we just draw a line to create a step series of notes like this, and that just draws them in. You could create different colors of notes. So if we drew a selection, so I'm going to go back to the arrow tool here and pick some of these notes like this. I could make all these blue. You can also select multiple notes at the same time. So I'm going to select all these C4 notes. So you go over on C4 on the piano roll itself, hold down Command if you're on a Mac or Control on a PC, and click, and then that selects the whole row of notes. Then you can make changes down here, like changing the velocity of all of them together, or you could move them as a group up or down on the grid. You also have the ability to edit the velocity directly for any selected note. So if we select this note, you can see you can go up here and select from available velocity values. Of course, you can do that down here as well. This is sort of a shortcut. And you can also adjust the length like this. You can see to divisions of beats or full beats, half beats, things like that. So if we wanted to make this 1 beat long, then we can just quickly do that right here. We'll make it back to 4 beats long. Grab the end of it and adjust it a little bit like that. There's a step sequencer mode, which I'm not going to get into, but basically allows you to play chord by chord and step in individual notes. And I'm not going to show you how that works, but it's kind of cool to know that's there. You can also turn sound on and off so that as you hit these, you'll actually hear the pitch. So that's kind of a cool thing. Now you can do velocity editing by opening the velocity area. Just click velocity here, and then for the selected note, you can grab this stalk, which represents the velocity, and edit it. And this is not unlike many programs. You can also edit multiple velocities together by selecting several velocities. Say we want to edit the velocity of all the C4s, hold down Command, select all the C4s, and you can see that they'll all adjust together. You just grab this stalk for the selected note. You can see the other notes are also shown in here. You could do this with any kind of controller by clicking Controller, and then you go into the type of controller, and you can choose from all available MIDI controller values, as well as aftertouch, channel pressure, and the pitch wheel are available right there as well. So those are the fundamentals of MIDI editing. We're going to talk a little bit about quantizing in the next video.